We're really grateful to have such a great attendance this morning, and grateful to Mary Kelly-Quinn, who introduced us to the people from the Citizen Science Project on the Wicklow Uplands Water Streams project. So Mary is going to introduce the project, and just to say thank you very much again on behalf of the UCD Community of Practice Citizen Science Group. I'm Jane Nolan, and behind the camera there is Liz Bruton. So that's the community that we're running today.
Thanks very much, Jane, for that introduction, and thank you very much for facilitating this talk here today. So I'm just going to say a few words by way of introduction to the project. So I've been working with a wonderful team for 18 months, and I've been training them in the identification of aquatic river macroinvertebrates and how to use them as water quality indicators. So I said they're going to do the talking today, but this is what we're going to cover. So we're going to look at, well, what are river macroinvertebrates? So I'm very conscious that many of you have never seen these creatures at all, but we want to tell you how they can be used as indicators of water quality. And then we look at what the river detectives, and these are our river detectives, and they come from the Lara Glendalough area. And they're going to tell you what they measured, how they measured it, and why, some of the results they compiled, and we're going to finish off with some of their thoughts or their experience as a citizen scientist. Okay, so I thought I would just take this opportunity to remind those that are not familiar with citizen science that really the core purpose of citizen science is to generate data and to collaborate with scientists and to fill some data gaps. It has the added benefit of also generating awareness, and this is partly why these guys are here today, and they have also given some talks locally. The focus is on water, and the focus is on streams and rivers, and I think it's important for us to think about how we value water and really the importance of water for life on land and the importance of water for us, because we need clean water and it provides us with so many other benefits, everything from supporting economic development right through to recreation. And the benefits that water, or surface water, indeed oceans provide, are underpinned by biodiversity and their processes. And unfortunately, freshwater biodiversity is under really high stress, and we're losing species at a faster rate than on land or at sea. And that has, because it's happening underwater and you don't see it, it's been described as a hidden tragedy beneath the water. Now, our citizen science team is concentrating on what we call small streams. These are headwater streams. And the reason we're concentrating there is that these small streams make up 75% of the total length of river channel in Ireland. They're underrepresented on the national monitoring streams, and we really don't know the water quality in many of these areas. They're also extremely important for biodiversity, and they have a direct effect on water quality further downstream. Now, so I'm going to introduce the river detectives. As I said, this is a group that is in the Lara Glendalough area. It's affiliated to the local tidy towns, and the work they have been doing has been supported not only by the tidy towns, but also we've received sponsorship from LawPro. So we have 5 people here today. So we have Rashinda, Colette, Paula, Dave, and Alicia. And each of these will give you some idea of the work that they have been doing. So I'm going to hand you over immediately to Alicia.
Hello. Okay, so.
Sorry, Alicia.
Yes.
The mic up.
The mic up. Okay, I'll put my notes there. Okay. Is that? Yeah. Okay. Okay, so we've broken the presentation up into a few sections. So I've got the privilege of going first. And so what I'm going to do is, I suppose, explain why macroinvertebrates are used as biological indicators for small streams. So if I work out how to, okay. So some nice slides that Mary has put together of some iconic birds and mammals from the upland streams that we're studying. So everyone will recognize this guy as the kingfisher, and their main food source would be fish. So they are, you know, everybody knows what a kingfisher looks at. So, you know, it would be a good biological indicator, but they're quite hard to see and they cover large stretches of streams. So not that easy to do a population study, for example. Similar to the dipper here with his mouth full of freshwater invertebrates. And the dipper again depends on clean, fresh, food-filled waters for its survival. And the dipper, again, it's an elusive bird. You know, they're hard to watch, or it's hard to see. And these guys are particularly interesting because they're actually a subspecies of the European dipper. So they're genetically specific to Ireland. So really interesting, but you know, not that easy to spot. And then again, another iconic mammal, in this case, the otter. Very lucky when you do see them. So if we were to set out and do an assessment of of a stream using these indicators, we would have lots of challenges. And here is a beautiful damselfly, or dragonfly, damselfly. Yeah, and then a trout, a brown trout. Okay, so they are instantly recognizable to everybody. And what we've done is we've gone to the bottom of the food chain to look at macroinvertebrates. So they're small, but they're still visible to the naked eye. And Mary took it upon ourselves to upskill us to be able to use these as really powerful indicators of the quality of the streams in question. So when you delve into this world, which is all around us, but we don't see and we don't think about, it is really quite fascinating. Some lovely photos here. This is a water hoglouse. If we find these in big numbers in fast-flowing high streams, they're indicators of probably nutrient enrichment, and the freshwater shrimp. Okay, these are the guys that we're really interested in. The mayfly, anyone who fishes or knows anybody who's fish will know about the mayfly. And the mayfly are one of the indicators because they're very picky, choosy, selective on the kind of habitat that they will tolerate. They need high oxygen content in the water. They need cold water. And they are really easy to identify at one level, in that they have 3 tails, as opposed to its counterpart here, the stonefly. They have 2 tails. So very quickly we can, you know, decide whether we have stonefly or mayfly. And these guys spend most of their life in the water, in the substrate, in little burrows in the substrate, under the rocks, in the vegetation along the bank or on the bed of the river. And they lay eggs, then they go into a larval stage, and then after 1 or 2 or 3 years, they emerge as adults. And they spend quite a short time as adults, anything from a couple of weeks to a couple of months. So they're ephemeral, and that's where the word Phoroptera for your mayfly comes from. They're very most of their life is aquatic. Okay. So this is a video that, if I press it again, should get some audio. And this,
It's just, if you go back one,
yeah.
And just click it again, it should. It's skipped. Do you want to describe the audio? You can describe anyway.
Okay, so they make a drumming sound when they are looking for a mate. So that's a pity that we can't get the. Okay.
Yeah, we might try it.
Okay. Okay, so when they emerge as adults, their one purpose is to reproduce and pass on their genes to the next generation. And this is a stonefly emerging from its larval stage to its adult stage. Okay. So when we're studying them, we're looking at them at a larval stage. Okay. So these are another group of insects that we've been looking at, and they're caddis flies. So caddis flies are really quite extraordinary. Some of them don't build cases, and others build cases which are specific to their particular genus. And it really is a feat of engineering how they can make these structures out of small pebbles, twigs, silk. And their particular house style is specific to their genus. So they're quite readily identifiable. And they've evolved these homes to help protect them from predators and also to kind of weigh them down in a fast flowing environment as well. So they're really quite extraordinary. There's, I'm going to have to refer to my notes now, there's 156 different species of caddisfly in Ireland, and luckily Mary's not getting us to be able to identify them all down to species. And then just as a note, there's 34 species of mayfly in Ireland and 19 species of stonefly. So they've evolved lots of different specialisms according to different environments. And the mayfly, I can go back, can I, Mary? Just briefly. So they've evolved to live in fast flowing water. And one of the modifications that they've evolved is to be very flat onto the substrate that they exist in. And that obviously reduces you know, their likelihood to be moved on into fast flowing water. And they also, you'll see they have external gills, which allows them to access oxygen in these environments as well. And these have been around since the Carboniferous. So they're very long lived and very highly adapted to a very challenging environment. Okay. And as well as providing food for the dipper and the trout, and some of them are carnivorous as well, their ecosystem services include breaking down material as it enters the rivers. So at this time of the year, a lot of leaf litter into rivers. These guys will consume up to 70 or 80% of that detritus and return it into the nutrient cycle. So they're multi-skilled. Okay. Maybe just to say that the mayfly, the stonefly, the caddisfly, when we find these in large enough numbers in an upland stream, we can quite quickly say that we're probably dealing with clean water. They, like I said, their tolerances are low. If there's nutrient enrichment, if the water temperature is too high, if the oxygen levels are too low, they don't tend to be able to survive. So even at a glance, you could say that, you know, your assessment is that the water is good. When you move down into the flies, then they tend to be slightly more tolerant. So you will find them, but you would hope that you wouldn't find them in large numbers in good quality water. And these are interesting as well. So some of them have modified mouth parts to kind of take nutrients out of the water as it passes through, and some produce a silky case that they literally stick onto rocks that then they get their claws into, again, to hold on to in fast moving water environments. Okay. Amazing artist's impression of a beetle larvae there, and a midge. And midges, to us that live in the Wicklow uplands, are these animals that we love to hate because they make our quality of life really poor in the and some of our field work we have experienced these. So there's non-biting midges and there is biting midges. And here's your fun fact for the day. There's 542 species of non-biting midges in Ireland, and 80 species of biting midges. And it's only the females that bite. And they are trying to get nutrients for egg production. So they need nice protein-rich blood. But so that's just an interesting aside. And I suppose what we have found as a group of people interested in the same things is every day is a learning day. There's so much to know about all of these invertebrates that the more you know, the more you realize that you don't know. Okay. So this is a video of a mayfly. You can see its gills working busily there. You can see it taking algae off the rock and how flat it is to the rock. And there we have a stonefly, and you can see its gills look slightly different. So macroinvertebrates, they're the canary in the coal mine. When we have certain species have different tolerances, and the scientists have worked this out, and we can very categorically make a call on the type of activity, if you like, that's going on in a water body. And it's I suppose it has added benefits to doing kind of chemical and physical analysis, because if we take a water sample, we can tell what was happening in that water body at that given moment in time. These guys give us a much better overall indicator of the overall quality of the water. So the top left there, we have stonefly and mayfly and caddisflies. And so even at a quick glance, you're probably talking about a good quality. And then in the bad quality, you've got your oligochaetes, you've got your diptera flies, and it isn't only presence or absence, it's abundance as well. So it's quite complicated, as one of my colleagues is going to go through, how to actually assess the exact status of the water. Okay, so thank you for listening. I'm going to hand you over to my colleague Roshenda for the technical part of the presentation.
Alicia, lovely, very much. You're very welcome, everybody. My name is Roshenda, and oh yes, forgot about that. Hello, everybody on Zoom. I am I'm in the citizen science group for nearly a year now. I'm also joined by my colleagues from Wicklow Mountains National Park, Dave and Paula. So the fun all started when we grabbed our kick nets and went off sampling. I hadn't done it in a long time since my college days, so I was really excited to be back in the water again. So it's a very sort of beautiful environment to be in the upland rivers of Wicklow, where we were sampling, and certainly something it'd be great for you guys to all become involved in or tell people about and let our group grow. So one of the first things you do is make sure the equipment is clean for biosecurity reasons, so you're not transporting any invasives from one river to the other. We jump into the river with our wellies, our waders on. It's always very cold. And our kick sampling method has to be very precise, because we're analysing data that might be around for a long time. So we want to make sure our 2-minute sampling method is comprehensive and representative. So we want to represent all the organisms in that river in that 2-minute period. So we walk backwards, so we're not contaminating our sample, walking upstream and diagonally across the river. So we're sampling from one verge to the other, because some species like Amylitis, like the grassy verges, whereas the Actinurus are they're the species that would be found in the more fast-flowing ripples. So they'd be in the middle part of the fast-flowing water. So it's important to get all of those represented in your sample. Plus, you'd pick up some rocks and you'd make sure that they're all included as well. And some of our species are attached to the rocks, like the cased caddises. So we have to sort of get those included as well. Tumble them all out into our trays, and then the fun begins. Sometimes it takes 20 minutes or so for them to emerge from under the leaves and moss. And then they come out. And sometimes even the darting movement of these species can help you identify them, because you get all the tricks of the trade after a while. You have to sort of get your eye into it. So that's their movement, it's their where they're seen on the tray, obviously their gills, and their tails. All those things help us to identify them straight up. So that's the sampling method. Being representative obviously is a big thing, but the different methods that I'll talk about now, the citizen science score and the SSIS score, there are differences between the two. So I'll go into that now shortly. But that's the sampling method. I'm happy to answer any questions as well if anyone wants to ask about sampling in general. So that's our kick net, and there are trays, and we have lenses as well, which are really lovely. They're 60 mag lens, so you can really see the beautiful gills all fanning. So we're going from wings to gills when we go underwater. So sometimes we get these little thread-like gills that are like little, tiny little, all sort of moving in unison. And then you have a more paddle-like gill, which is like a little, paddle on a boat. So they're absolutely magnificent under the lens. So we have our two systems. So the citizen science stream index is a much simpler, I suppose, straight up visual sheet, and it has our three green species, our 3 green groups and our 3 red groups. So the green group there is all the species that we'd like to see in the rivers, in a healthy river or stream, and they're categorized the stonefly, mayfly, and the greenfly, and we take 3 samples of each. And then the red ones, obviously, are the ones we don't want to find. So it's nice and visual. It's great for people starting off, maybe with young children, or really have no idea what water sampling is like. So it is a very valuable way of getting people started and getting them enthusiastic about what's in the water. And then we move on to the next system, which is our small stream impact score. And that takes into account more biodiversity. So we look at relative abundance, and we look at the number of species. And I suppose, as we know, since the 1970s, there's been a loss of about 70% of our species, and particularly in the aquatic environment. So we don't have any data on macroinvertebrates, but we'd assume it's something along those lines. So we need to get out into those rivers and get that data. So this is just an example of our caseless caddisflies. And we've no common names with any of these families or species, so they're all very complicated and a bit off-putting when you open up the book first. When I first got out there, I was like, oh my God, never get to know all these names. But between us all, we figure out ways of identifying them and come up with our own little funny words for them. So we have, for example, Psycho is the third one down. That's Hydropsychidae, and he has little gills at the end of his little feet there, fanning out, little tufted gills. And then Ryan Coffla is quite green when you see it on the tray. And this one here has a little spotty head. So they have different ways to sort of spot, and you get your eye in for them after a while. So that is that's just one sample of the caseless caddises. So into the actual numerical side of things, I won't bore you all with the numbers, but you take into account the species or the family name of each organism you find, and then there's a relative abundance scale, which just is up here on our right. So 1 to 5 means a relative abundance of 1. It just tidies up the data and makes it a little bit more uniform. So you add up all the relative abundances and you get a total for each group. So you have your Ephemeroptera first, which is your mayflies, your Plecoptera, which are the stoneflies, Trichoptera, which are the caddis flies, and then the GOLD is an acronym for gastropods, oligochaetes, and dipterans. We have 2 rows of those. And then the last one is our ocellus. We actually get a score for a minus, an absence of ocellus, because they're tolerant to pollution, and we get a score of 4 for those. So you add all those up, and you go to the category where you get the relative abundance of 1, and you move down and you get a final score of 4 for that if you get a relative abundance of 1. So it's quite comprehensive, a little bit, I suppose, overwhelming initially with all the different, the different categories and whatever, but it's fairly comprehensive, and it's quite satisfying when you get a score at the end. So if you have a score of greater than 7.25, that means the stream hasn't been impacted. So that's mostly what we were getting up in the Wicklow Hills. So that was really encouraging. So that is that. So what else? So I feel I've rushed it a little bit. Did I leave anything out? I don't think so. I think we're good. Other than to say, it was it's so beautiful to get out there and to be part of a group. And it was really fun just spending the winter, going through the weekends. We spent a lot of Saturdays in all sorts of weather, bad weather. And we really enjoyed getting the data together and having Mary as our mentor as well. She's a great teacher and she was very dedicated to the cause. So I'd like to thank her as well. But thank you guys too. Okay. And it's over to Colette. Thanks, Roshinda.
Okay, so thanks everyone. So far we've seen what's in the river from Alicia, and Roshinda's gone through how to count them up, and now we're going to look at the results. So this is a map of mainly South Wicklow, the area we focused in onto, and you can see that we covered a lot of locations in the time frame over the 18 months. From the north, the Liffey headwaters up near the Sally Gap, which is up here, and then down the south towards Avonbeg, and then over as far as Lockdown and beyond. So in total, you can see that we went to 45 sites and did 47 assessments. Most of them were done in 2024. We did 6 sites last year, and you can see the range in values were from a low of 5.6 there in the south example, up to over 11. So, you know, ideally we want to be getting over that 7.5 and beyond to be positively indicating there's good quality and health in the water. Okay, so when we sample is very important as well, what time of year. So you want to be going to the river when you're going to see the most there. So for things like stonefly, early in spring is better before they hatch, so you have more chance of seeing them there. We typically sample between March, April, May, but when you get to June, sometimes the water levels are too low, so then it's hard to get the right representative sample to give you the information you need. And then also the weather is a factor in what day you go to sample. So if it has been very wet and a lot of rain for a number of days that we're going to have this weekend and had in the last few weeks, the water level it can be murky and it's hard to see what's in there. And then that can have other influence as well on the results. Okay, so the range is there. So what we wanted to, you know, initially our aim was, can we see this little guy here on the right, the Amelicious? So Amelicious is a favorite of Mary's, yeah, Mary, and because it's very pollution intolerant, and seeing the Amelicious is always a positive day. So the first time we saw the Amelicious, and they like to live at above 300 meters. Next slide, here we go. Here we are. There you can see it's a beautiful invertebrate, and it has the characteristic 3 tails of mayfly, and it has the 3 stripes at the end. So when we see it, we're usually sure that it is what we're seeing. And it is an Arctic alpine relic, and the time frame then. So we want to get in there before late May, before it hatches, so we can see it. So and as I said, it's a pollution intolerant, sort of indicator of climate change. So the first time we saw one was in our first year out, when we knew little less than we knew the second year. So we were very excited. And it was here, we found it in the Glenmalure Valley, which is, now it's down here. Yeah, Glenmalure Valley, up in a place called Barravore. So if you are a hill walker, you might be familiar with that. So we trekked all the gear, which Roshinda showed us there, your nets, your trays, your lunch, very important to get up there and find the spot, and a bit of scrambling, and yeah, we found it that day, and we've seen it a few times since as well, which is really positive. Okay, so you can see then that, you know, there's different colors on the page here. So the blue is good, and that's the positive, probably unimpacted. So majority of what we see is blue. We do have some red. So for example, in the south there of the map, we had a 5.6, and that's to do, we most likely the cause of that is to do with a lot of silt or sediment runoff into the river, making it more difficult for the invertebrate to populate the location. We've seen examples then where we've had acid stress. Again, this is from forestry, the bog runoff, and that's where we've seen 2 stars over there in Avonmore on the right near Loch Tay, and a number of examples on the page there. And then we've seen where we have both. We've had both the silt and the acid stress, and it gives those the 3-star indicator there. So it's 3 stars in the good in this case. So this is what we've seen out and about. It's given us a lot of, a lot of hope, a lot of good information, a lot of positives. We've seen a lot of different invertebrates in the rivers. How do we know if this is the cause, acid stress or siltation? We're not seeing some of the things. We're not seeing stoneflies when there's too much silt in the river, and then not seeing the beta-days when it's the acid, which is one of the mayflies. So with the book that we had and with the training from Mary and working together as a team, we were able to discuss it on the day and see what does that mean? Is it really a beta-day? Is it really a Heptogenia? What is it? So it's very important to really be sure when we're populating the small stream impacts scorecard as well. Okay, so what have I said here? So then I think the next page this is our lovely Amelitas. And yeah, so then just talking about our experiences as a citizen scientist. So lots of people were involved. So we have from age 8 up to 75 and more. So it's a real range of people from different backgrounds, different interests, lots of enthusiastic people. These young guys here happen to be my 2 boys, but they're teaching us. They've quick eyes. They're really enthusiastic. They want to get in the river, fall in the river, get in, find stuff, identify it, move on, fill in the sheets, the scorecards. So this boy here is doing the 6-step indicator one. And yeah, so giving us a lot of information, and it's a fun day. We're out for about 4 or 5 hours. It's always a different site. Typically, we would sample 2 or 3 sites on a day. So we might be moving further downstream or to one close by to there. Are there similarities? Are we seeing the same information as we move around? You can see, it's a lot of concentration. There's a physical getting into the river or the stream, pulling out the samples, and then, like taking out the book, looking at in detail, and a bit of banter as well. It's always a bit of fun. We usually pick a day like this. It's nearly always a day like this. On occasion, we've been caught out, but it's always, wrap up well, get out and enjoy it, and that's your day sorted. You can see here Rashenda, and we can see some of our other volunteers, and maybe I'll ask you to give us a little bit of your experience. So maybe start with you, Dave, if you want to talk a little bit. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Thanks, Colette. Yes, my name is David. Dave. I'm a colleague of Rashenda and Paula's. I work in Wicklow Mountains National Park, and very fortunately, Mary taught us so much about what we learned, and we got to experience, but also our organization very kindly allowed us to do this work and encouraged us to do it. So, and I feel that it will enhance our jobs. We work as education guides in the national park. So that's a really important that we're involved, I feel, in this kind of work. And it's also, we're making connections with people in the local community, which is really important from a national park point of view, because we work in the community, not separately. And I've already said this at a previous talk, one of the greatest experiences I had was to the knowledge that I gained from Dr. Kelly-Quinn. I got to pass that on to mature students who had come to the park as part of an MTU, the Munster Technical University. They were doing a course, and we got to bring them out and teach them what we had learned. And in my opinion, passing on knowledge that you've gained is the best experience you can ever, achieve, is to do that. I think that's probably the most worthwhile and rewarding thing, is to pass on your knowledge. Okay, thank you. Are you okay? Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, thanks so much. So we have a few more, I think, lovely pictures of our beautiful river detectives, which we were nicknamed. And yeah, so lots of good days out. And as David said there, yeah, it's about we've learned so much. We've learned so much from one another. We've learned so much from Mary here, but also, you know, bringing that awareness to other people, the why we're doing it. We're not just doing it as a hobby. It's to bring more, you know, future awareness, and what can we do to minimize the impact going forward by having that information with us and sharing it with others. So here's a very high-tech bottle top that we use for with candle wax, so the little invertebrate doesn't get stuck in the cracks. And it's sometimes we put them in there, and you have your little hand lens, and you can see very clearly that is our friend Amelitus. Oh, okay. Yes, he will move. Yeah, brilliant. There you go. So it's very exciting when you see that. Yeah, yeah. Who would have thought? And then this will move too, and this is Lymphophilidae, which is a case caddisfly. And this, I think this is your favorite one, Paula, the messy one. Yeah, he's messy, but he looks beautiful. So yeah, so it's great. So you can see him there. Okay, so what's next? So we will go back in 2025, and we're always looking for other volunteers to join us. And for new sites, but we look at those sites where there was a red or a question mark, so that we can, you know, was that just a day to point in time, or is it an ongoing issue, and what can we do to understand that better, and also to bring awareness to more people, bring more people into the group, and the long term, I know Mary'd like for us to teach more people, and like David said there, to be able to understand and own some sites and go forward with that information. I think that is it. So thank you very much. Hand you back to Mary.